Okay, hi everyone, Daryl here. I'm in charge of compliance at Easily Private Limited. So Easily Private Limited, we run this platform called Easily Corp. So you can go to easilycorp.com. Corp is short for corporate. So what we have is that we have a digital company secretary platform whereby if you register your Singapore company or you appoint us as your company secretary, then you will have access to this platform and you can manage your company through this digital company secretary platform. So for today's presentation, we're going to speak about incorporating a Singapore company, and this is particularly for foreign citizens, which means that people who are not Singapore citizens, people who don't reside in Singapore, and let's say if they wish to incorporate a Singapore company, this is a video which you guys should be watching. Okay, so a few terms, right, that you guys should know when you are conducting business in Singapore. So the first thing you must know is this body called ACRA. So ACRA actually stands for Accounting and Corporate Regulatory Authority, and generally ACRA is the national regulator of business entities in Singapore. So if you register a company, the body that is regulating companies, right, is actually ACRA. Okay, then Easily Private Limited, right, we are actually a filing agent. So a filing agent is actually a person or a company that is officially able to perform transactions on behalf of another person's behalf with ACRA. So Easily Corp, right, like I mentioned, we are a registered filing agent with ACRA. So a lot of clients, local and overseas, they do appoint Easily Corp as their filing agent. And what we can do is that we can, through the instructions of the clients, right, we will be able to perform transactions on their behalf with the registrar's platform. So if you want to make changes in Singapore, everything is digital. You go online to ACRA's platform and you can make changes. And generally for us, we are filing agents, so we will be making changes and administering the corporate compliance on behalf of our clients. Okay, so every filing agent, right, requires at least one qualified individual to sit on the board of the company as a director. Yeah, so coincidentally, I'm the qualified individual for Easily Private Limited. Okay, so you are preparing to do business in Singapore, and these are a few things that you need to know or you need to prepare before you can proceed to register your Singapore company. So number one, you will require a Singapore resident director. I'll touch a little bit more on what it means as a to be a Singapore resident director. Next, you need a company secretary. You need a Singapore registered address and at least one shareholder. Okay, so now that you need a company director or Singapore director, right? It's actually a Singapore resident director. So Singapore director or Singapore resident director, it can be a Singapore citizen, a Singapore permanent resident, or an entree pass holder, or also maybe a foreigner with a valid working pass. It just means that this person must be ordinarily residing in Singapore. Even if the person is a Singapore citizen, but let's say he has already migrated to, let's say, Australia, then he is living and working in Australia, he can't be the Singapore resident director because he or she is not ordinarily residing in Singapore. Okay, so if you are a foreigner and you want to be the Singapore resident director, you can be. You have to apply for a valid work pass, and then the Immigrations and Checkpoints Authority of Singapore will issue this valid work pass to you. Of course, if you require assistance in applying for this work pass, our company we also have a valid employment agency license. What we have is that through our platform, you can actually apply for the relevant employment passes or entree passes so that you can sit as the Singapore resident director as a foreigner. Okay, so an entree pass, right, which is entree pass or employment pass, right? So one of the passes is the entree pass. So this entree pass allows foreigners to legally start and operate a new business in Singapore. Entree stands for entrepreneur, but the requirements are rather stringent, then the application process is quite long. So it makes this entree pass not so popular an option. Normally what people do is that they apply for an employment pass. So an employment pass means that this employment pass will actually be tagged to the company, and then you can be that company's employee as a company director. Okay, so easily corp, right, can provide a local nominee director to comply with this requirement. So some people they are not uh, eligible to apply for maybe the employment pass, or maybe they don't want to be residing in Singapore. For a start, they may want to set up the company, but they don't know any Singapore resident who is living here and who can be the Singapore resident director. So what they need is a nominee director. So this nominee director, we have a panel of nominee directors. We can source for one and then help you out with this requirement. And this arrangement is legal and accepted by ACRA. But what we will need to do is that we will need to have this register of nominee directors updated in the company files. Okay, so next, right, you need to appoint a company secretary. So every Singapore company is required by law to appoint a company secretary. The post of company secretary, right, cannot be left vacant for more than 6 months. Okay, so if let's say a company secretary leaves, right, within 6 months, you need to appoint another company secretary. So a company secretary must be a natural person, and that person must be a local resident of Singapore, which means that the company secretary also has to be a resident of Singapore. He or she has to be residing in Singapore, cannot be residing overseas. Okay, so for certain types of companies, right, the secretary must be a qualified individual. For example, non-profit organizations, public companies, non-profit organizations like companies limited by guarantee, public company limited by guarantee, or uh, any other public companies as well. Okay, so the main responsibility of the company secretary, right, is to ensure that the company adheres to statutory requirements as required by the Singapore law. Okay, so it's important that you appoint someone who is knowledgeable with the rules and regulations that govern Singapore companies. The rules and regulations that govern Singapore companies are essentially the Companies Act. Okay, so the sole director of a company cannot be the company secretary. So, like for example, if I'm the company secretary for a particular company and there is no other director, I cannot be the director. I cannot be both the director and the company secretary at the same time, even though I fulfill the requirements of being the local director and the company secretary. It must be two different people. Okay, so it's important to note that the director is still responsible for the day-to-day running of the company. So a lot of times, right, I have clients who appoint me as the company secretary, but then when maybe we ask them to get their company in order with regards to certain compliance matters, then if they don't adhere to it, right, and we have no way to force the directors to adhere to it, right, eventually the onus is on the directors to get the company in order. It's not the secretary, you see. The secretary is just to assist the director, but the directors are the ones who are responsible for the day-to-day running of the company. Okay, so when you engage Easily Corp, right, you mean that you get somebody highly qualified, and we are quite experienced. We are very experienced with regards to managing Singapore registered companies. So we are very clear about the compliance and accounting matters. Okay, and our senior member of our team, right, will be appointed as your company secretary. And next, you need to get a Singapore address. You can use our virtual office and digital mailbox service. So if you are setting up a company in Singapore and you need a physical office, then of course you will go and rent one, and then if you need assistance with that, of course we can help you out with the company setup as well, the office setup and everything. But if you don't want a physical office and you just want a virtual office, right, you can use our virtual office service, and we have a digital mailbox service. So the Easily Corp platform, right, is such that whenever we receive mails, what we do is that we'll scan and then we will drop it inside the digital mailbox, and you can go in and open your digital mailbox and be updated about any correspondence that you receive for your company. Okay, and not only the digital mailbox service, but just to reiterate that our virtual office, right, is such that all your corporate documents are all inside the online platform as well. Okay, so Easily Corp, like I mentioned, right, we will provide this registered office address, which is mandatory if you want to register a Singapore company. Okay, and then next, right, is that you have to put in at least one shareholder. This shareholder can be foreign, so a foreigner can own 100% of the shares in a Singapore registered company, there is no requirement for a Singapore citizen or Singapore permanent resident to be a shareholder. A foreigner can own the company outright. Okay, so this shareholder, right, can be a Singapore citizen, Singapore permanent resident, foreign individual, or even a foreign entity. So you can even have a foreign company owning the shares of the Singapore company, like 100% of all the shares, is okay, is also okay. Okay, so we advise that the shares of your company are issued in Singapore dollars and in simple denominations. You can also issue the shares in terms of US dollars or other currencies, but to make things simple, right, we do advise that shares are issued in Singapore dollars, and if let's say you have 1,000 shares at $1 each, so your paid up capital is $1,000. That's the simplest. So I try to get my clients to adhere to this $1 for one share type of pricing. Simple denomination for a start is easier moving forward. Okay, so next, right, now you've got all these things in order. You have to prepare for the incorporation application. So what do you need to prepare? You have to select the Singapore company name. Okay, you need to give us at least 3 options. Typically, if you're incorporating a normal company, it would be a private company limited by shares. Therefore, the suffix at the back will be PTE Ltd. It stands for private limited. I'll touch a little bit more on of that in a later slide. Then next, you have to have this SSIC code. It stands for whatever trade your company is doing. It stands for Singapore Standard Industrial Classification. Then you need to set your financial year end date. So usually a year from the day of incorporation. Then you need to have all your identification documents, like your passport. So for foreigners, we only can accept your passport. So like I have clients whereby they are from certain countries, right? Then they have certain identification cards which the government provides to them, but we cannot accept that. We can only accept passports. Okay, and then next you need a proof of address. Okay, so this can be in the form of utility bill, mobile phone bill, bank statement, or any government document stating your residential address. We need to ascertain that you are residing at that address. Okay, and we'll use this, right, in the when we are updating your name into the system. So we use this address which is shown on this utility bill, mobile phone bill, bank statement, or any government document. We'll use that address on that document. Okay, so choosing your name, right, for your Singapore company, try to choose something simple, and a lot of companies are company names are already taken. So try to give us something that's unique, and if let's say you're not sure whether it's available, right, then you can check with us first. Okay, so you have to provide us a few options, then we'll check whether these options are available. So the suffix at the back, right, stands for private limited. If you're incorporating a private company limited by shares, we try to tell clients that the suffix is PTE.Ltd, which stands for private limited. You can spell out private limited in full, but typically people have PTE Ltd, and if people write checks, right, we are used to PTE Ltd. So always try to have company name PTE Ltd. Okay, so finding your SSIC code, like I mentioned, this is the Singapore Standard Industrial Classification. You have to find the SSIC code that corresponds to the kind of business that you will be operating under your Singapore company. So the SSIC code is required for registering your company. Okay, so each company has 2 activities, a primary and secondary activity. You need to have at least a primary activity. So if let's say your primary activity is maybe designing websites, so try to find an SSIC code with regards to maybe designing websites. Then your secondary maybe trading in garments, like maybe you're trading clothing, so then you can have a second SSIC code. They can be unrelated, okay, but maximum, right, is 2 SSIC codes. Typically when you open the company, when you start the company for the first time, and in the beginning, right, you would have one business activity which you would think the company would be doing. So try to put that in order first. Okay, so at least have one SSIC code. The second one you can add on later. Okay, so if you're unsure, right, you can describe your business activity to us. We'll recommend the SSIC code which comes closest, then you can search from there, and then all the SSIC codes, right, within around the same code number, right, are all very similar in trade. Then from there you can narrow your search. Okay, so next is deciding your financial year end. This FYE, right, or financial year end, determines when your corporate filings and taxes are due. For Singapore companies, right, you have two government bodies which you have to take note of. The first one is ACRA, which is the Accounting Corporate Regulatory Authority. The second one is IRAS, which is the Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore. That one is the one that collects taxes. So the FYE refers to the end of the accounting period for your company. So once your FYE ends, right, so your financial year ends, right, you need to prepare your financial statements. So like for example, if your company is incorporated on 1st of January 2020, then on 31st December 2020, right, the financial year end will close if you choose 365 days. Then from that date, right, you have 6 months to hold your AGM, and then we can do this annual return to ACRA to tell them that we've held the AGM. That's all for this financial year. So back to the same example, right? So when your financial year ends on 31st December 2020, right, 1st January 2021 is the start of a new financial year, a new financial period. Okay, so that financial period is again 365 days. Okay, you may set your financial year end to any other dates for any administrative purposes. So if you have a company in your home country and then you want to get the Singapore company in line with the financial year of your home country, you can do so as well. All you need to do is to tell us. And in Singapore, right, most of the time people tend to coincide their financial year end with the end of either the calendar year, the mid of the calendar year, or the quarters. Okay, so you need to gather your documents. You will need to provide us with a full set of identification documents with proof of address. So for corporate shareholders, right, if let's say the shareholder is going to be a corporation, a company, we need to know the beneficial owners of the company, which means that if let's say you are from the United Kingdom, then you want your United Kingdom company to be a 100% shareholder of the Singapore company. That's possible as well. But what we must do is that we must ascertain the beneficial owners of the United Kingdom company, the UK company. So you need to provide us with documents about the corporate shareholders of the UK firm. Okay, and we'll need to do due diligence on all documents provided. We can only incorporate the company once compliance is cleared. Usual compliance will take about 1 to 2 days. So you need to provide us with all the documents. Once we clear compliance, then we can proceed to incorporate the company. Please note that we cannot work with designated individuals and entities that are subject to targeted financial sanctions by the Monetary Authority of Singapore. There's a slight typo there. So like for example, if you're from North Korea, right, then you want to incorporate, or you're from Iran, then you come to us, right, I'm sorry, you can't do your business because in Singapore, right, all these entities, right, they are target of all these financial sanctions, right, for one reason or another. We can't deal with you. Okay, so just take note. Okay, then once your company is incorporated, right, you'll be given a company business profile and a company constitution. If you by default, right, we'll use the model constitution. You can change your constitution at a later date, or you can draft one that suits your needs at the point of incorporation. Constitution is basically a document that tells all the members, all the shareholders, how business is to be conducted, or anybody for that matter, how business is to be conducted in that particular company. Okay, and the business profile is a document that tells who are the shareholders, who are the officers of the company. And in Singapore, right, everything is digital. The business profile, there's a QR code. You can scan the QR code, you can check that your business is live, your company is live. Okay, then you can apply to receive the certificate of incorporation. It's not issued during incorporation. You don't need it in most instances, but if you do need it, right, you have to inform us. Then we have to apply and pay the registrar to receive this certificate of incorporation. But once your company is incorporated, right, Singapore government agencies, right, all use this thing called Corp Pass. It stands for Corporation Pass. So basically, what it means is, what it does is that it's just a digital access platform to all the different government bodies. So once your company is incorporated, you can actually set up your corp pass and you can access Singapore government websites and portals, right, using corp pass. So for example, I have clients that maybe want to open a customs account, okay, because they want to do import and export. They will do so using corp pass. So long as you have an internet connection and your corp pass is set up, you can do the application already. You don't have to go down physically to the customs department to submit an application. That does not happen in Singapore. Okay, so at the end of the financial year, like I mentioned previously, the company needs to hold an AGM, and then after that, the financial statements will be prepared for the AGM. Once the shareholders have cleared the AGM and agreed and accepted all the financial statements, right? Then we have to do this thing called annual return. So every financial year end, we need to inform ACRA that we have done the AGM and everything is all in order. Then we can move on. Okay, and so that one was ACRA, and this one is actually your corporate tax filing. This one is to do with IRAS, so Income Revenue Authority of Singapore. So the corporate tax deadline, filing deadlines are on the 15th of December every year. So you need to file your corporate tax the following year. What does that mean, right? So for example, your company is incorporated on 1st of July 2019, so the financial year closes on 30th of June 2020. So do you file your corporate tax in 2020? No, you don't actually. You file your corporate tax the following year. So the following year corporate tax season is end of the year. So you have to file your corporate tax by 15 December 2021 for the financial year 1st of July 2019 to 30th of June 2020. Okay, not sure about this, right? We'll guide you along. The Easily Corp system, right, has notifications to remind you of all your important dates. So long as you have the login requirements, we also will send you emails that this is due already. So what you need to do is just make sure that you receive our emails, and then you are always updated and just follow the regulatory requirements. It's not very difficult actually. Yeah, we are digitizing a already very digitized system. Okay, so the next right is that you have to maintain the relevant registers. So if you have a nominee director, you have to maintain the register of nominee directors and registrable controllers in the company's register office or register office of the filing agent appointed by the company. Most of the time, the clients keep it with us, which is the register office of the filing agent appointed by the company. We have a lot of registers, so we got registers of directors, register of secretary, register of members, which is register of shareholders. Then any register you have to update. Okay, so this is mandatory: the register of nominee directors and register of registrable controllers. Okay, the registrable controller is essentially individuals who have 25% or more shares of the company, but the definition is quite wide. So that will be for another webinar or another YouTube video. Okay, so the registrar, right, which is or like ACRA, right, they may add on new regulatory requirements from time to time. Okay, because Singapore aims to be a global financial hub, so we have very strict anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing laws. So for example, right, now during recording, right, this is the beginning of July. So all companies will need to update their non-public register of registrable controllers with ACRA, and we are going through that exercise currently. So for example, if you don't adhere to this, right, there are composition fines which may be levied on the company. So that's something that you may want to avoid at all costs. Okay, so once you're done with the incorporation of a company, you need to open a corporate account. So every Singapore company needs a bank account to operate. You will need a bank account to put in your paid up capital. So the most commonly used banks are OCBC, UOB, DBS, and Maybank. So it does not help and does not make much of a difference if you are an existing customer. I have clients who had previously worked in Singapore, and then they had a personal bank account with DBS. They say, "Oh, I got an excellent relationship with DBS," but when they go to DBS, and DBS is not so friendly with regards to opening their corporate account, and they say, "Oh yeah, they were not so helpful, even though I was an ex-customer." But no, it doesn't work that way. Okay, so the personal banking and the corporate banking are two different departments. Okay, so upon incorporation, right, you need the company's business profile and constitution, which obviously we'll provide to you, right, to open the bank account. Then you need a director's resolution to open this account as well. Our firm will assist in this matter. And please take note, the company's bank account should only be used for company-related matters. I have clients whereby their corporate accounts, right, is very intertwined with their personal accounts as well. So I see things like uh, in their bank transactions, right, company bank transactions, that they are spending on their personal, on things that they are using on a personal basis, on daily personal basis. Okay, so this is something that you really need to avoid. So the company bank account is only to be used for company related matters. Okay, so the company's bank account can be connected to accounting software like Zero. So if you guys are you want to do use accounting software, right? We recommend that you subscribe to this platform called Zero. You may be familiar, as Zero is also an international international accounting software brand. Okay, so that's all from me. Uh, I can be reached at Daryl@easycorp.com. And if you guys have any questions, right, please feel free to just drop me an email. We will always be coming out with new videos, and we will also have our webinar. So you can go to companyessentialsworkshop.com, and we'll be holding webinars every first and third Thursday of every month. Okay, so that's all from me, and I'll see you in the next video.